So about 4 years ago, I started working with an organization called Save the Manatee Club. And pretty much before that, I really didn't know what a manatee was. Maybe one kayaking trip I was on, I had seen some nostrils come up next to the kayak, and at first I freaked out thinking it was an alligator. And then momentarily, you're just like, oh, okay, it's big, it's gray, it's not an alligator. And at that point, I was like, oh, it's a manatee. You know, we'd studied about that in school at some point, and I'd forgotten about it. And then shortly after that, I ended up working at Save the Manatee Club. After about 4 years, I decided, you know, I'm staring at pictures and videos. You know, I'm working hard for the manatee. I should be sculpting them. And I started off just sketching them. And I would just fill up my sketchbook with all different poses, usually a little on the cartoony side because they're very playful animals, and I wanted to capture that playfulness of that animal. And they're always changing. Like every photo you see of a manatee, every angle makes them almost look a little bit like a different animal. So the head shape always looks a little different from different angles. So I kept drawing, and I was kind of intimidated to sculpt it. And then finally I said, I'm going for it. So I have started a new series of manatees, and right now they're bas-reliefs, which means it's a very low relief. You can hang it on a wall. You don't need to have it on a pedestal. And I have a selection here of ones that I've started with, and often I will start with a clay, and there's several different clays that I like to use. This one is a oil-based clay, so it never dries out, which is really nice because you can just take your time and sculpt and add and subtract the process with the clay until you get the form that you really like. So what I'll do is I'll look at all different photos. I will go back to my sketches. Often there'll be a pose that I really liked, so I want to capture it in clay. And so this one, manatees are very tactile, and so they're always like greeting each other, and so they nuzzle and they use their muzzle area, which has whiskers on it, and they kind of greet each other and say hello by kind of like touching snouts, which is just, you know, people think it's really adorable, and it is. So I started a little bit of a rough sculpt here of a couple manatees, just nuzzling and saying hello. And I have some where I have single manatees, like a side view. And then this little guy, he's swimming. Once I get the clay the way I like it, then I will make a mold of it. And a mold is basically the negative impression of your clay or your sculpture. So there's one of the molds. And here's another one. And then I'll be able to cast a material in and make several copies of each of the figures of the manatees, and then I like to finish them different ways. So each one ends up being unique. It can have the same form, but the paint is always going to be different on each one. And with this series, I'm probably also going to do a little bit of mixed media, collage, add other elements to it as well. So this is my first bat sculpture. And this little guy is a Mexican free-tailed bat, and I thought he was so cute because he's one of the few bats that have tails. Every Saturday night, Kaleidoscope has a show, and you can see many of my pieces at the show. They're themed differently each Saturday night, so okay, whichever theme they match. Myself and other artists bring work here. So every Saturday night from 7 to 11, there's a show. We just did The Life of Trees. There's an all things art show. Sometimes it's science fiction, sometimes it's anime, so all different themes to appeal to everyone. And in order to see the list of events, or even for artists to, you know, have a call for art, you can go to Facebook, to Venue of the Arts, or look up Kaleidoscope Venue of the Arts on there, as well as Instagram.